right, welcome everybody to our podcast. This is our first ever podcast for the SPARK program. SPARK stands for Supporting Parents and Reaching Kids. It's our parent outreach program for Boysville, so welcome. My name is Vicky Rine, and I am a certified parent educator and the director of our SPARK program. I really like to come to y'all and kind of talk to y'all about parenting, because we all know parenting is hard. That's kind of an understatement. And I think of parenting as we all have a story, and for every story, there's an author to that story. And you, the parents, are authors for your family story. So you have to sometimes ask yourself, what do I want my story to be? And when we have kids, we're just so enamored with them. And we think they are so wonderful. And they are. And we love them more than we love our next breath. But sometimes they present us with behaviors that absolutely drive us crazy. So understanding them helps us to put them on the path of where they're destined to go. So what do I mean by understanding them? Well, there's a lot that we have to understand about our kids. Boysville makes a difference in children's lives, but I want SPARK to make a difference in you, the parents' lives. I want to be able to validate you with some of your concerns and some of your different children, what you're going through with each and every one of them. So I thought I'd start out kind of talking about their DNA. So what does their DNA have to do with parenting? Well, before we can really understand them, we have to understand where they came from. What's going on? What is inherited? What's not inherited? I know that we all know your eye color, your skin color, your hair color, your body type, the diseases that you're prone to. All of those things are inherited. But what you might not understand is that your personality, part of your personality, a percentage of your personality anyway, is inherited, as well as the temperament traits. So sometimes when you have that little booger at home and they are just causing you all kind of problem, and you look at them sometimes and go, what are you thinking? It helps to understand where they're coming from. Now, for me, I was an adopted child at a time in our society when children were kind of brokeraged, meaning this, that lawyers and doctors pretty much found the families that needed to place their children, and then they found the families that needed to be placed. Later on, the adoption agencies came in and looked at if the home was suited to take care of a child, or if the family was suited to have a child. So in that time era that I was adopted, it was very much thought that parenting was the sole responsibility of what you did. In other words, you took a child and you molded it, pretty much like you mold a piece of clay. You molded that child. If you didn't mold it right, you got somebody that was more challenging or difficult or presented with a whole lot of issues for you. But if you made them do stuff, and if you molded them in such a way that they would end up being these remarkable people, well, we all know that there's those square peg kids in the round hole world that you just can't cram them in. Now, you have to imagine that I was one of those, what I refer to as square peg kids, meaning this. My parents did everything that they could possibly think of doing, and everything, I might add, that worked with my older sister. And they found out they could not make it work with me. I remember so often my mom saying to me things like, "What is wrong with you? Why can't you be more like your sister? And I remember even way back then thinking, nothing's wrong with me. But as time went on and I got that message over and over and over again, I began to think, well, maybe something is wrong with me. What my parents were actually saying was this: we don't know what to do with you. We don't know how to tap into you where you listen to us. We don't understand where you're coming from. We just can't figure it out. That's what they were really saying. But the message that came across to me as a child was I was broken. I was broken. What I want you to take away from this is children do not come to us broken. They're not broken. We just have to figure out and become more creative in how we deal with them. So when we're talking about personality, and I said there's a percentage of your personality that is inherited. So personality is the things that you like, the things that drive you, the things that you're interested in, even food choices. Some of us are driven to sweets, others are driven to savory. If you'll notice, that starts out very, very early. When I think of my own two daughters, who I was so blessed with, they're 7 years apart, and I think of them just walking. Now, my older daughter, she would get that chair, and she would walk around the chair, and she would walk around the chair, and she would walk around the chair. And I would put another chair really close to her. I mean, like, she'd only have to reach out, touch the chair, and take one step, and she could get to that other chair. But that kid dropped down to the ground and crawled over to the other chair, and then she walked around that chair and walked around that chair. So when she actually walked on her own, no assistance, she was about 13 months. Then I had that second child. Now that second child, I had the chair out, and she walked around the chair. And literally at the time we had a very big, wide, expansive room. And I will never forget that little girl at 10 months old. She went up on her toes. She spread out her arms. It was like a big old giant bird. And she went gleefully up on her toes, running into that big expansive room, giggling and laughing the whole time. She ended up face planting, and I thought, oh no, she's going to cry. Nope, she just crawled back to the chair, and she did it all over again. By the time that she was walking without any assistance, she was only about 10 and a half months. So it's not that one walks better than the other. It's that the way they look at life is very different. My older daughter is very, very detailed in the way that she's thinking. She pays attention to everything. She decides what it is she's going to do before she goes forward. My second daughter is kind of like, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants. And I laugh and I think the walking style pretty much tipped me off about who they were going to be. So as you can see, one daughter, I can't direct and guide her along her paths in the same way that I would guide and direct my younger daughter, because they look at life two different ways. They process information two different ways. Now, that's nothing that I did. That's their DNA. That's the things that they've inherited. Understanding that helps me use different methods with both of them. Wouldn't it be great if you had kind of this, when you have problems with a computer, you go to the troubleshooting guide in the back, and if this happens, do this. Children are not like that. Children are not like that. We don't have a troubleshooting guide. We have to really get creative and know them so well that we can tap into them to help them make sense of their life and how they look at things. When I was a kid, I was extremely strong-willed. Now, they didn't call it strong-willed back when I was a kid. They called it challenging, difficult, belligerent, those kinds of things. But it's just strong-willed. No surprise, I gave birth to two strong-willed children, and they present in very different ways. Kids speak in behavior. Our job as parents is to guide them along so that they end up learning how to communicate with us in such a way that we have this great relationship. And we write that family story that maybe is different from the family story that you come from. Here's my goal. For me as a parent, I wanted to be a better parent to my kids than my parents were to me. That happened. But that's not where it ends. I want my kids to be better parents to their kids than I was to them. I want them to learn how to understand their children at a deeper depth than I even understood them. And when we talk about all of these things that I'm going to get to come to you and talk to you about in these podcasts, I hope for some feedback and I hope for some questions so that we can talk about it and that we can explore this together. Because here's the thing that I have found in the 25 years that I've been doing parent education. Parents are all united by this one thing. And that one thing is there's not one parent ever that I have encountered that would say, you know what? I don't want the best thing for my kid. I just want him to listen to me and do what I say, period. Every parent that I've ever talked to says this, that they want the best thing for their child. But sometimes we just don't know how to get to that point, how to guide them, what to look for, what's developmentally appropriate, what's not. What can we do to help us do what they help them to become the people that they need to become? I love parent education. Parent education, because of my own experiences, has helped me tremendously. I am excited with parents and talking to parents and helping them. We also do coaching one-on-one with parents. Sometimes you just have that kid and you're thinking, they're just driving me insane. So what we do is we take your perspective, whatever it might be, and we help you see it perhaps through another prism, another pair of glasses, so to speak, so that you can see things from a different angle, so that you have, again, more knowledge, so that you can help your kid become that kid that you want them to become. Because this is what I've observed. When we as parents really try to work with our kids, and then you get overwhelmed and you get tired and you get frustrated, we create this big circle. We get frustrated, we quit talking to them, or we do a harsh punishment, or then we come back around, we try something else, and then we go harsh, and then we stop talking to them. And what you do, you get yourself into this vicious circle. And our goal is that we build this connectiveness between us and our kids. One day your kids will leave, and when they do, I guarantee you, if you've built this connectiveness, they'll come back and forth, but not to live with you. Just to have fun with you. So welcome aboard, and buckle your seatbelts, because we are really going to have a rip-roaring time, and we are going to talk about all the things that matter to you as parents. Welcome aboard, and thank you again for joining us. See you soon.